18 months ago, the Hunter Biden, James Biden laptop scandal. And now it's unraveling despite the media's efforts. Where do we go from here? Why is it suddenly getting traction? The evidence seems overwhelming and seemed overwhelming back then that this was a real story. But then 51 intel experts assured the American public this was Russian disinformation. Why would they do that? Former Attorney General Bill Barr has an idea.
Because they're political whores. And it was wrong for them even to put out a letter because they didn't know the facts. They had zero information. They did it as a political ploy to help Biden win the election.
Wow. Here with his 2 cents, author of Red-Handed, How American Elites Get Rich Helping China Win, and the president of the Government Accountability Institute, Peter Schweizer. Peter, they're getting onto a story you wrote 18 months ago.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's shocking. The mainstream media, which is supposed to be the guardian that's holding into account our political leaders, was covering up for our political leaders. I first exposed the Biden's ties to China back in 2018. Then you had the laptop emerge, and the mainstream media has ignored that story from the beginning. So the sad reality is, Brian, if you are counting on the New York Times or the Washington Post to know what's going on in the world, particularly as it relates to the first family of the United States, you are not going to get anywhere near the information that gives you a realistic picture.
Peter, this story's moving for the mainstream, not necessarily for you. You've moved there. But CBS reported, Catherine Herridge, who does a great job, used to be here, that Americans' banks flagged over 150 banking transactions involving James and Hunter Biden concerning these are U.S. banks' international transfers, large sums of money. This Lion Hole group that James paid was paid by a Chinese consulting firm. He was getting about $100,000 a month. Hunter Biden, $60,000 a month. Tony Bobulinski's in the background saying Joe knew all about this and he was getting a percentage of this. You could easily put this story together. The mainstream media is getting there. Will they go the rest of the way?
I think they will, Brian, for a couple of reasons. First of all, this grand jury that's been meeting since 2018, they took a hiatus with COVID. They're back in action, so to speak. They've been looking at Hunter Biden, and it's pretty clear that they are probably going to recommend an indictment of Hunter Biden. So the train is leaving the station, and the media does not want to be caught so flat-footed. The second thing that I think is going on, frankly, Brian, is that the Democratic establishment is starting to turn on Joe Biden himself. They look at the poll numbers. They look at where things are going to happen in November. They do not want this guy thinking that he's going to run in 2024. So I think also you're seeing the Democratic establishment, which translated means certain elements of the mainstream media, are starting to turn on Joe Biden. And that's the reason they're finally pursuing this story.
Right. And to say that it doesn't go to Joe or